Hello, everyone. Um, I'm speaking from Orinda, California, and I just came back from a month of being in Colorado. I went there primarily to do an Ayurvedic treatment, to helping with my health, and I have really um, happy news that it has helped, and I'm feeling a lot better. So I'm able to do teaching, which is great. But while I was there, there were also some important events that happened, and it was significant. I was there over 4th of July, and dear friends were expecting twins, and it happened that they had to go into the hospital because it was a high risk pregnancy. And on the 3rd of July, I heard that they were in labor many weeks before term. And so there was my own expectant waiting to see how they were doing and how the babies were. And the babies came and were fine, and the mom was fine. Everyone was fine. And so on 4th of July, I went to go visit them in the hospital and see how they were doing. And we got to watch fireworks outside of the window. And so here we have a kind of remarkable confluence of personal events and cultural events. 4th of July is a day in this country where we have fireworks and picnics, and many people celebrate the independence of this country from Great Britain. And alongside the celebration, I have known that there are many people who are navigating a lot of pain and disappointment and challenge because what's going on in our society, what's going on in our government, what's going on in the world around us is not congruent with values that we hold dear. So for some of my friends, the 4th of July was not a cause for celebration, but a cause for mourning. But what stood out for me about the confluence of being present for the birth of these babies, my friends who had been in the hospital for a while because of their high risk pregnancy, is that what we're navigating really seems to be the the dichotomy between independence and interdependence. Um, on the one hand, we can have a long discussion about the values of having the autonomy to make the choices that are meeting our own needs and to be able to be self regulating. But when that independence takes us outside of our ability to connect with others, to see the needs of others, to be allies and friends and advocates for the needs of others, then our independence is causing harm. And so here were these two precious little babies, absolutely sweet and precious. And there was no possible way that they could have made it in this world without an entire team of people that were there supporting and holding and rallying and providing exceptional support. So, in this one very personal example with some dear friends of mine, we can see that when our interdependence allows us to connect with each other, when it allows us to be in tune and responsive to the needs of each other without abandoning our own needs, without giving up on what we also need. So there's a relationship of interconnection and interdependence rather than a fusion of melting, of dissolving our own needs. Then there's something that is incredibly beautiful that can happen. So I was delighted to spend time with my friends and really delighted to be present for the bringing into this world these two precious human beings. But what I was also really touched by was that it seemed to be that this confluence of events on the 4th of July is speaking to a much bigger picture than the immediacy of what my friends were navigating and I was navigating and her family were navigating on that night, which is that we're at a crossroads. And we have taken our hunger, our longing for independence to an extreme. And our independence has meant that individuals have profited at others' expense, that we have looked at what we have needed and we have viewed others as whether or not they are a mechanism or a obstacle for us to get our needs met. And so rather than seeing that when we relate to each other in this way as just objects of whether they can be fulfilling our desires or objects that they are going to impede our desires, then we break away from this understanding of our interconnection and our interdependence. And when we do that ourselves, when we relate to somebody else in that way ourselves, what we are doing is we are emphasizing our separateness. We are emphasizing our desire over our connection. We are emphasizing our our desire and our pleasure over the qualities of heart and caring with another and the consequences of what happens when we speak and we act in a way that relates to somebody else just in terms of their desire. Now, let me pause here and talk about how I'm familiar with this. When I was a work nun at Amravati, I was in charge of a large facility. There were 34 buildings. There was a big workshop, and we had an entirely volunteer community that oftentimes were not skilled. And we had many, many things to do. And I was not very skillful because in one hand I had a really good ability to assess people in terms of whether they were able to follow directions and do things. But on another hand, what I would do is I would look and see whether this person was able to help get this project done. And so, as a nun, because I had pressure on me to get a lot of things done, and because the circumstances were requiring me to use a volunteer group of people to help me get the stuff done, rather than relate with generosity and kindness and appreciation for the gift of their presence, I related to them in terms of whether they would be able to help get my project done or not. And so both are needed. We need to get projects done and we need to relate to each other as human beings. And the more we are able to relate to each other as human beings, the more we're going to be able to find creative ways to get the things done that we need to get done. So it's not only that this ability to choose our independence over our interdependence is an outside activity. I think each of us needs to look at the ways that we do it ourselves and have an opportunity to question if that is in accordance with our values and if that is something that we want to continue with and perpetuate in this world. So on the 4th of July, everyone was tired. It had been a big, huge day. These two young parents had their two beautiful babies who were healthy and they were okay. Everyone was okay. And we were kind of all nestled in watching the firework display outside of their window in Denver. Right outside their window was the Coors Park firework display. And for me, there was this big, huge party and celebration that was going on. And internally, my experience of joy and celebration was this insight that the way forward for us now as a human race, as people, is to lean into our interconnection and our interdependence. It's to understand our own needs, to be able to be allies for other people, to be able to understand and speak and help advocate for people whose voice is been disenfranchised. And together, when we are able to do that, we will find, if there's any possible chance that we will find a way forward, it's through emphasizing our interconnection rather than through uh, demanding our independence. Now, just the day before yesterday, my brother was here with my great niece Rose, and we took mom to Armstrong Redwoods. Armstrong Redwoods is an old growth forest that's in near Guerneville, and there's some trees there that are um, over 1,000 years old. There's a couple of trees that are 1,400 years old. And the redwoods have a system of interlocking their roots, and they have ways of sharing resources. So if one redwood is in an area that is very mineral rich in manganese, and 750 feet away is a spot of earth that's very depleted in manganese, then the manganese rich redwood can share through its roots to the manganese depleted redwood the abundance of nutrients it has. So we are in a challenge as well as an opportunity. As we look at the things that we have in our world, as we look at the things that people are lacking, we have an opportunity to find a way that our interconnection in terms of our human nature will give us the inspiration to find ways to share the resources that get basic needs met for a whole variety of people. And so the more people's needs are met, then the less strife, anxiety, violence there is in this world. The less violence and strife and anxiety there is in this world, the more people are able to bring forward their intelligence and their creativity to help supporting what is next. And our interdependence with the larger whole is not at all separate from our connection with our own body, heart, and mind. And so as we move forward in this conversation, we also need to remember that the anchoring point for us to be able to sense and to know what's going on around us is to sense and know what's going on inside of us, and to know how we are relating to it, and not only what's going on, but how we are responding to it. So the challenges of our world, which are manifold in many, many different ways, we can take steps forward based on our interconnection and understand that our independence is a contextual independence. Our interdependence is the linking of our humanity to each other and with each other. And through that, then there are blessings that we can experience that we cannot otherwise. So I wanted just to share these few words for reflection and wish everybody well and rejoice that my health is better. Yay. And yay, team, for all of the good wishes and support and the myriad of um, acupuncturists and Tibetan medical doctors and Ayurvedic practitioners and osteopaths and prayers and support that I have received that made it possible to have these treatments. So thank you, and bye for now.